All right, folks, I have the distinct honor of being joined by one of my oldest friends on earth, a man by the name of Trevor Acorn. We went to school together in a little place called Maranatha Baptist Academy in St. Robert, Missouri.
That's right.
Yeah, I went there longer than Trevor. Like, I started in fifth or sixth grade. Oh, I started in fifth grade, went to
Mm.
another school for sixth grade, then started in seventh through graduation. You came there like in your sophomore year or something, I think, right?
Yeah, I
Maybe
was just
freshman?
right, I was trying to think back when exactly. We had moved to St. Robert and I was going to church there with you for a while. But I don't think I actually went to the high school until I believe it was my sophomore year.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I
That
think we had
sounds
two or
right.
3 years together
And
there.
you were homeschooled before that, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, my mom actually started a Christian school in Cheyenne, Wyoming, which you used to have a joke that Cheyenne, Wyoming didn't exist,
Oh, it
and then
didn't
you met
exist, yeah.
me. All of a sudden that joke didn't go anymore. Um, but yeah, she started a school, but then when we moved to Missouri, um, it was like super important to her that her kids go to a Christian school, and there weren't any good options, and so we were homeschooled for quite a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
homeschooling. So homeschooling is one of those weird feast or famine things that some of the brightest people I know, such as yourself, were homeschooled for an extended period of time, but some
Yeah.
of the dimmest bulbs in the world have also gone to homeschool. It's very, very weird.
Yeah, I think maybe it fits some kids well if you kind of a self-learner potentially. But if you're not and your parents aren't great teachers, I don't know.
Well, I think it's well, I guess it's both. It's the kids because you're right. If your kids don't have like that self-starting initiative, if they don't have that
Mm,
kind of mentality, they probably wouldn't fare well. But the parents got to know what they're doing too.
oh my God.
And I always said that I'm amazed at the confidence that a lot of parents have that choose to homeschool their kids. Because listen, I'm no genius, but I think I'm a little more intelligent than average, just slightly.
You
And
should homeschool your kids when you have them, TJ. It's going to be
there's
incredible.
no way I would be confident to do that. No chance. Like I'm gonna teach this
Well,
kid
I mean,
calculus. Like I don't care if I have
yeah,
an instructor or videos. Like man, I'm not gonna be able to do that. So yeah, that would be pretty rough.
yeah, no. Yeah, where were we? So I was homeschooled for a number of years, and then yeah, when my first time in Christian school though was with you, um, as a sophomore.
So how would you describe our Christian school? Like what comes to mind when you think back to Maranatha Baptist Academy back in the late mid to late 90s?
Uh, it's been a long time. And I was thinking back, like I was trying to recall memories, different moments and experiences that we had, and they're just it was weird, right? Like it was so small. That's you know, but we watched a lot of videos. Do you remember all the like recorded like
Yeah.
1982 history, maybe not history, physics. I did literature, I think was recorded. So watching all these videos, we go to school to watch videos. That was super
Yeah,
weird.
half our classes were on tape. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember. So I had algebra on tape. I had biology. I'm pretty sure that was on tape.
Mm,
All of my
yep.
English classes,
That's
pretty
right.
much.
Biology.
We had what? Oh yeah, so the literature. I loved the literature and spelling of that school. That's like one of the only things I liked about. I really enjoyed memorizing the poems, stuff like that. But a lot of it was on tape. Physics, though, I did have in class. I'm pretty sure we took an actual class with that
No,
when
you're
I took
right.
it. Yeah,
I
when I
think we
took
did do
physics.
physics. Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Did you take it like I remember Heather and I, were you in that class?
I don't think I was with you guys. Maybe I
Okay.
was. I don't remember who my classmates were.
Yeah, yeah.
That sounds about right though. It would have been. Who knows? I don't remember who else took it, but
Yeah.
I was not great at physics. I liked the science part, but the math part was never my strong point. And so,
I thought I was great at math and physics, and then I went to an engineering school,
oh,
right?
there,
And
then you got to learn stuff.
I had to take remedial math, actually.
Oh, insulting.
It
Oh,
well, yeah, it was humiliating.
oh,
But
I
honestly,
imagine.
honestly, it was for the best because it made me get serious about it. I thought I was good. I was the smart kid in math,
Hmm.
at homeschool and then also, at Maranatha, but like that proved not to be true at all.
Yeah, yeah. So our school was a Christian fundamental Baptist school.
Mhm.
And as bad as you may think the rules are, ours were worse. It was among the worst I'd seen. And I didn't know how bad it was until I left and went to a Christian
Sure.
college. And other people were like, whoa, man, you're telling me the boys and girls had to sit at different tables at lunch? And
Oh, I
like the
forgot
boys
about
and the
that.
girls had to
That's
sit on
right.
different sides of the bus when we rode on the bus. And
Oh, yeah.
I was like, really? Yeah, you guys have to do this? And no, that's insane. What are you talking about? Oh, all right. One time I got in trouble for wearing shorts um on the church grounds, like not even during school. This was like school was not in session. This was like, late in the evening or something. I came and our principal, Mr. Ragland, he came and yelled
Mr.
at me and
Ragland.
said, don't you ever wear shorts on campus again. I thought it was weird to use the word campus. It wasn't incorrect, but it was just odd to hear high school referred to as campus. Like, it's also a church. I got in trouble for that. So our school spanked kids. We had corporal punishment
Oh,
up
man. Yeah.
until senior year. Like, there was no age where you were too old to not get spanked. And
TJ, listen, the rest of this conversation, I'm gonna have this shock on my face because
you
I have pushed this all out of my memory. Like, I forgot. I mean, you're exactly right. Like, we sat on opposite sides of the bus. That's
Yep.
super weird. Yeah, I forgot about the tables. That's also pretty wild. Do you remember all the girls wore culottes?
Yeah, so the
I don't even
girls,
know what that is.
I had never heard of culottes until I got to that
Right,
school. And the only time you'll ever see culottes now in like the regular world is sometimes female golfers will wear them. That's pretty much the only time that I've
okay,
ever seen them or heard of them. And imagine like you took a skirt and just like sewed them down the middle or
right.
something. So it's like really wide, like baggy shorts that like go to like mid calf. They don't have to be that long, but they played volleyball in culottes. We only had basketball and volleyball. Oh, by the way, Trevor said our school was small. However small you're thinking, think smaller.
Big small.
So, Trevor, what
Yeah.
was your graduating class? Like how many
Well,
people?
there were three, if you recall. There was
300? 300 people? Was
three
it?
people, one,
Oh,
two, three.
oh my God.
It was myself. There was Heather and Justin. But then actually Justin
Didn't
failed to
graduate.
graduate. So it was just Heather and I.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. My graduating class was 4, so Trevor's got me beat
huge
there. My little brother,
double.
though, Mark, his graduating class 1. It was just him. It was just him.
Yeah,
So yeah, when Trevor said
right.
the school was small, it was pretty tiny. Um, and there was just it was a demoralizing place to go. Like
Mm.
I hated every second of school. I know most kids do hate school, but just the the psychological damage. Like Trevor was talking about how he pushed these memories down. I don't blame him. Like I don't blame him at all because just I felt so much disdain from like most of the staff towards the kids, which is not good, folks. You don't want your kids coming in thinking that they have to like live up to some, a feigned expectation for example,
Yeah.
uh we had so you're every class you have your valedictorian, and we also had an award called the Myron Weber Award. And
Oh, that's right.
that went to the kid who showed the best like
Character,
yeah, the best spiritual
Jesus.
character or
Yeah,
something. And yeah.
right.
And so who won the award you're graduating?
I won the
You won it?
Myron Weber. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I had to give a speech, I
Mm-hmm.
believe.
Yeah, we had
Yeah,
two speeches, the valedictorian speech and the Martin Weber speech, and something that he
yeah.
won them both.
Well,
Uh
Heather beat me. She was the valedictorian.
uh Heather
Yeah,
was a bright, so
yeah. She's pretty smart.
pretty bright. Uh our class did not have a Myron Weber Award winner.
Oh
Our
my God,
principal told us that the
that's
four of
right. That's
us,
right.
yeah, we didn't have
I
one. It's like,
remember now.
yeah, you guys
Jeez, that's
don't live
brutal.
up to it. None of you have displayed. You've all been here for like 5 or 6 years minimum, but in this time, you have not displayed Christian character like we believe in. So guess what? No one's getting the award this year. So yeah, that's the
What did you guys
what
do
did we
to
I to
des
this day I don't know. To this day I
Mm,
don't know because they dropped it on us like a week before graduation because up until then like it's like, oh yeah, someone's gonna get it. It's like, yeah, none of you guys are getting it. F you guys, not gonna happen. And
yeah.
yeah, pretty wild stuff. I don't know, man. We had like so I will say we did have like a band that our principal put slapped together this band of like 15 kids or whatever. We did pretty well for how small our band was, but we would also take these classes on it wasn't music theory, it wasn't anything that advanced, but it was like the spiritual nature of music. And do you remember them talking about why this is also in church too, not just in the
Mm.
school, but why we didn't listen to rock music, that the 2/4 beat was evil? Do you remember them
What they
talking
called
about
it syncopation, right? Wasn't
syncopation?
that
Yeah,
that was the
yeah.
word? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and they would say that the 1/3 beat matches like the beat of your heart or something, and the 2/4
Brilliant.
beat speeds it up. And the 2/4 beat is of the devil. And the only reason the 2/4 beat exists for modern music is it was brought over by Black Africans during slavery, and it was demon music, and it came from people who worship the devil. Like that was like
Sounds
the
about right. Yeah,
yeah, that was the
yeah.
actual doctrine that they preached from not just the church but in the school itself. I mean, like I. I'm sorry to keep. I didn't know this was like going to be like digging up stuff for you. I don't blame you for pushing it down though, because it was pretty wild.
Yes. It wasn't just that idea was pretty common, I think, in
Yeah,
these circles, you know.
true,
It wasn't just our school. Like
true.
you know, my uh my brother married into this family, the Owens family, and they were Bill Gothardites. And they went to this church down south of St. Robert area that was more extreme than our
Yeah,
church
that's
in
true.
my
They were. Yeah.
experience. Yeah. But yeah, the whole devil's music thing was a big part of that. King James only, man, they
Oh
had
my
like a bunch
God.
of weird. We had, yeah, Maranatha wasn't so keen on that. Maybe there was some, but like other folks I met in the independent fundamental Bible believing Baptist world were all about that.
I
Huge.
recall plenty of people at Maranatha being
Yeah,
King James
right.
only.
Well, I guess I don't recall Keith Carnahan being huge about it, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you,
So I never remember him. So I can't think of a lot of times when he like outright said it. I can't,
yeah.
but I do remember bringing it up to him once. I forget how old I was, but we went to the, I don't know if you went there or not, but we went
Mm.
to this Bible camp in Arkansas. It was like Hope, Arkansas or Rose, Arkansas, something like that. I can't remember, but only
I
time I've
do
ever been in
remember
Arkansas.
going to a Bible camp. I don't, maybe it was Arkansas. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
we, yeah, but there was one that was anyway. But we went there, and I remember they had a couple of preachers that come. There was a really young guy there who was like starting to take over the ministry from his dad or something. He was like in his mid 20s or
Okay.
something. But I remember them giving a sermon where they talked about two things, two big hot topics at the time. The one was how everybody was mad at Disney World for having like a gay pride day. Do you remember
Yeah.
that? Like
Yeah.
that was a
Yeah.
it's funny how conservatives, the conservative Christian right wing especially, loves their boycotts. They boycott Disney, they boycott Starbucks, they boycott Target, boycott Nike, I mean you
Right. It was a
name it.
thing.
It just keeps going, but it goes way back. And so it goes back to I remember people saying many, many times, oh, they have a gay day, they're gonna have a murderer day. They said that all the time. Like it was even then that didn't make any sense to me. But anyway, with the camp, I remember the preacher coming up and saying, "We use the NIV as toilet paper down here." And I was like, okay. And I remember asking Pastor Carnahan about that. I was like, doesn't that seem a little weird? I mean, I get that he's a King James only Bible. You're gonna tell me the NIV is actually toilet paper? That was a and Trevor and Matt. So Trevor and I and another friend of ours, Matt,
Yeah.
we were really close back in high school, and so
Yeah.
either you or Matt came up with this idea of having a Bible study before we went to school, and we would meet at McDonald's
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
at like 7:30 in the morning or something, and
And
we would
didn't before that, we think we met at Waffle House, right?
Waffle
Like on
House. Okay,
Tuesday nights. No, we did the McDonald's thing too. I think I forget which one came first and which one came
uh,
later, but yeah, we definitely did a bunch of McDonald's and a bunch of Waffle House.
I remember. Do you remember Mr. Tipton getting really mad at us about that? All right, do you remember that?
No,
Yeah, well,
no, not at
maybe it's
all.
me and
What?
Matt, because I remember like he would ask about it, like because like so you guys got a little Bible study going on in the morning, huh? We're like, yeah. He was like, all right, what you guys talking about? He was like interrogating us. I was like, well, where are you going with this? This is so weird. This is something I talk about a lot too. Is that so growing up, how we did in our little sect of Christianity,
Yeah.
a lot of times they wanted us to study the Bible. I will give them that. Like I did get a respect for studying the Bible, and because we took it seriously. And they said, we want you to ask questions. They would always say that, which is only kind of true because they
Yeah.
want you to ask questions, but they also want you to just accept the answer. Because if you don't accept the answer, then we got a problem. That I ran into quite a bit.
No, I agree. I can see why something like meeting at McDonald's or going to Waffle House could be scary for them, right? And to be fair, like that is kind of where the seeds of, I don't know, critical thinking
Yeah,
and challenging some of the things that we were being taught really began for
it
me.
is for me too.
Um, yeah, and so like we were talking ideas that about ideas that felt radical to us at the time.
I know, right? It is.
Um,
It's funny to think back that they were radical for us.
yeah, it
Like,
really felt radical to us. But that at least like made it okay for me, at least internally, to think about radical things and to talk about things that may have been I don't know, not seen as appropriate conversation in
uh,
at the church,
anathema.
right? Or it's anathema. Perfect. Perfect name.
Perhaps.
Maranathema?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think I mean, I don't think, I more or less know that that's an important part of just human development and just, learning, like whether you're
Yeah,
religious or not,
totally.
just to think critically. And when I was in Bible college, I would do this a lot and talk to people. And what annoyed me the most about talking about spiritual issues or the Bible or God or God's word itself with Christians is that they didn't take it seriously. They didn't. They didn't know anything about it. They didn't care. And I was like, man, like you're telling me like this is capital G God we're talking about, and He wrote a book for you and has all the stuff that He wants you to learn, and you don't seem all that interested in it. Like to this day, I don't understand that. Like I will. Oh, so you mentioned your mom and your in-laws. One thing
Sure.
I always did respect about your mom and the Owens family is the
Mhm.
women would wear like
The head
bonnets.
coverings.
Yeah, the head
Yeah.
coverings.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember I don't know if I ever asked why or if I just kind of stumbled on it where the Bible says pray with your head covers like, huh, all right, kind of hard to argue with that. I remember looking at it, I was
Kind of
like, hey,
black and
look,
white, right? Like they took it
yeah, when
seriously.
you're right, you're right. Yeah. So I do appreciate people who actually do take the Bible seriously because nothing is more annoying than someone who's like a belligerent Christian, just browbeating you with the Bible and you start asking basic shit about the Bible and they've never
Yeah.
bothered to look it up. It's like, that I care more about God than you do, and I don't believe in God at all. And that's just like that. What does that say about you? So I guess I wanted to ask. I didn't
Yeah.
ask before we start talking. Where has your path taken you in regards to religion and faith and everything? Where'd you end up? I'm always fascinated to hear these stories because there's so many splintering paths that everyone's gone down.
Yeah. Well, I have a fair amount I could say about that. And
I knew you would.
yeah, and I think I want to be honest too. I think that your being vocal about your own path on
Hmm.
this has been a huge help to me.
Hmm.
And I should say thank you
Right.
for that.
Hey.
But let me kind of walk you through it a bit. After our high school experience, and after I went to college, um, I was still just as committed to Christianity, and to kind of this way of being in the world that I was in high school for quite a while. But I think kind of the seeds of doubt started shortly after I left college, and even actually maybe while I was in school too a bit. Um, and you know, I actually ended up going to a pretty left-leaning Episcopal church while I was in school. And then after I left, we joined a more left-leaning Presbyterian church in St. Louis for a long time. And so I found that like that was helpful for me to process both my past and my beliefs, and to kind of further develop a way of seeing the world through the lens of Christianity. Um, but it wasn't really until about a decade ago that I really finally stepped back and said, wait a sec, none of this really makes sense. And it was finally getting exposed to biblical criticism and people that took the Bible more seriously than the people that I grew up in. I don't think people in our world, I don't think Christians in general actually take the Bible seriously as a book of literature, right? Like how it was written, the
Oh
political
my
things that were
God, not
going
at all.
on
No.
that caused, right, the Israelites to write the words that they did. They want to say it's God breathed, it's inspired, and that it's all from God, but that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't, it's not logically consistent to take that view. You can't have a view of the Bible where it makes sense. Like systematic theology is a failure from the start if you take the Bible literally.
What were the first cracks in the armor for you?
Oh man, I think it was as simple as just the creation story was
Oh,
probably the
okay.
first
That's
one,
a good one.
right? Yeah. And then realizing there's actually two creation stories,
It's so
right?
funny. It is so funny that Genesis chapter 1 and 2 are
Right.
two different stories. Like it's crazy. Like right off the bat, we're going and the that's a great example of the calories that people burn trying to merge this stuff together as
Oh,
a coherent narrative.
100%.
It is
Yes.
wild the steps that they take for the the most famous example of this, probably, well, to me, I think, is Judas's death. So, for those
Okay.
of you who are unaware, the disciple Judas, who the one who betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, the Bible records his death, and it says that after he betrayed Christ, he went out into a field and tripped over a rock and, basically disemboweled himself. His guts burst open into this field.
Okay.
And then in the book of Acts, it talks about his death. And oh no, no, I'm sorry. In the Gospels, it says he hanged himself. But in the book of Acts, it says he fell into a field and his
Which one
guts.
is it?
Which one is it? And I'm sure
Maybe
you've
it's
heard.
both, actually.
Yes. And
Yeah,
so,
like,
yeah, that's what they do. Like, that's exactly what they say. They say, well,
yeah,
yeah, I know one part of the Bible says that he fell in a field and his like guts fell out. And the other part of the Bible says he hung himself. But here's what happened. He hanged himself from a tree and the branch broke and he fell. And I
yeah,
was like, okay, that all right, I guess. But in order to believe this, you have to expect me to accept the fact that God is the worst writer in the history of the universe. Like he just deliberately makes things confusing. And I don't understand why you can't just like, okay, well, maybe I should look at this in a way that does make sense. And like look how this was put together, look at the books of poetry, the books of history, look at allegory, look at
yeah,
do some work and like look at the cultures of the area and how they influence. Like it's not
yes.
asking much if you really believe in God, and that seems to be too much for a lot of people.
No, yeah, if you're going to really take it seriously, you need to do that history, right? Like you need to dig into it. And you can't though. If you have this univocal sort of view of the Bible where everything has to be internally consistent, you're screwed because you can't do that,
So you can, but if you do,
right?
you're gonna end up somewhere.
The knots are gonna tie. Yeah, oh my
Yes,
God.
yeah, and I think honestly, that's I'm positive that's what it actually is. That
Right.
it's scary. Like I first I had a lot of questions already in high school, in college, but I still believe. But when it fell apart for me
Mhm.
was, I believe, it was either my sophomore or junior year of college, one of the two. And we had this conference. I went to a college also at Maranatha, unrelated school, but it was
Right.
Maranatha Baptist University, and we had a conference going on, and it was called Baptist Heritage Week. And basically, we had like two or three preachers come in every day, and they would give sermons on, why Baptists are the correct denomination of Christianity. And I was very excited for this because I would have like, debates with people all the time. I was like, listen, I need to know like why like I'm better or my chosen denomination is more correct than Presbyterians or Seventh Day Adventists or Holy or anything like that, Pentecostals. And so I went through the whole week, and at the end of the week, what I walked away with was 5 days of people saying Baptists are correct because we follow the Bible. And I said,
Mm,
Really?
yeah.
That's what anyone would say. Like every you can't you find me the Christian denomination that wouldn't say the same thing. So I started studying on my own, and the first place I started studying was the construction of the New Testament canon. And my results were not comforting. What I found, I gotta tell you, I was not happy with what I found in that essentially the New Testament canon. Now, to be fair, the New Testament canon started in AD 50, maybe AD 55 by the works of Paul. And AD 70 is when the gospel started getting the Gospel of Mark. And the Gospel of John was written by like AD 110 or 115. So,
Yeah, like 40, 60 years after Jesus, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so the Gospels would have been like 40 years after Jesus. Paul's writing. So what's funny about this, like Paul's writings are the earliest writings, so they're like 20 years after Jesus. But uh Paul admits he never met the man, which I find very funny. like the earliest books of the Bible, like, yeah, by a guy who never met Jesus. And
Right.
also interesting, Paul never mentions the virgin birth, not one time. It's never anywhere in any of Paul's writings. It doesn't come, and it's not in the first gospel either. It's not in the Gospel of Mark. It's not until Jesus' legend grew later and later that you find the virgin birth. But the first person to come up with the concept of a Bible was a guy by the name of Marcion. And Marcion said, "Hey, we should take some of these, writings and create, our form of scripture." And he wanted to just disregard the Old Testament because he read the Old Testament and he's like, okay, the God of this Old Testament is a cruel, violent demiurge that I want nothing to do with.
He's on to something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it would have been honestly, it'd have been so much better for Christianity if they did that. I think it made it a lot easier. So Marcion's New Testament was Luke, Acts, and the epistles of Paul. That's it.
Oh,
And
okay.
this would have been like, I think it's pretty early, like before AD 200, like between like AD 150 and 175, something like that. But then other bishops around the area started creating their own New Testament canons. And the one we know now today came pretty early too, but it wasn't until like AD 300 or so at the Council of Hippo where a bunch of people decided, okay, these 27 books are the New Testament. And when I found that out, I said, okay, so you're telling me that a bunch of people, like not Jesus, not the apostles, just a bunch of random dudes in AD 300 with no more apostolic authority than you or me decided this is the Bible. Like how do you justify that? And that didn't sit well with me at all. And from that point forward, I said, okay, I can't call myself a Christian anymore because there's no defending this. There's no defending at all that these are the divinely inspired word of God because three guys born in the early or the late third century said so. That doesn't make any sense. I still believed in God. I know I
Hmm.
was still in the look at the trees argument, like why is there something
Yeah,
instead of
yeah.
nothing? But that was the first. You've heard that argument before. The look at the
Of
trees.
course, yeah.
so so what how did what's your version of that?
Oh man. I don't have something quite that um something like that I can point to. It was more slow and gradual
Mm-hmm.
kind of leaving. I think what I had to do, like I was pretty happy in sort of the liberal left Christianity for a long time. There's a lot of folks in that world that don't take the Bible literally, that see Christianity as kind of a book of wisdom. The
Yeah.
Bible is a book of wisdom that we can kind of tap into, and it can help us, but also you know, like don't take it literally. Um, but I think eventually I realized that this worldview, right, where there's a heaven when you die,
Mm-hmm.
and what we do on earth maybe matters, but not ultimately matters, is pretty destructive,
It
honestly.
is. It is.
And you can see it and you can feel it in yourself where you don't value your friendships, your family, what you do in the world, because it's all passing, right? And what ultimately matters is this thing that's going to come in the future. And I find that really incredibly destructive. I think it's bad morality too. But then, um, as from like an agnostic atheist perspective, everything that we do in this world matters because this is all we got, right? Our friendships matter, our kids matter, what we do matters. Um, getting involved in local politics matters. Like everything actually really matters. And I guess when that switch finally happened in my brain, I realized that this thing isn't helping me, and it's time to move on.
When you talked about how, pardon me for a second, I got a pack of pens here I'm going to open up. So one thing that I'm very bad at is remembering like tiny little details that someone mentions that I want to go off on, and I forget them all. So I always got to write stuff
Yeah.
down during these things.
I have a pen and paper next to me too. I
Ah,
do the
yeah,
same
no, it's
thing.
not just me. All right, yeah, that's good. So you mentioned the value of life uh, in this uh, in this
Yeah,
uh,
dude,
in
because
this.
we're all gonna die and then it's gonna be over. And
Yeah,
what we do matters as a result. And if we're gonna die and then go off to an eternity in heaven, then what we do now doesn't really matter.
it doesn't.
The only thing that matters is getting people to go up there with us,
Yeah.
right?
And this is something that I say all the time because one question that people have a lot of times when I say that, listen, I don't know if a God exists or not. I doubt it, but I certainly don't believe that, this God, if it exists, created this life as a test for how I'll spend my afterlife. Which one that makes no sense at all. That like why bother? If you already know the result, why bother doing the test? Like that's insane. And then they'll ask, well, if there's no afterlife, what's the point of your life? And I was like, okay, well, is there an afterlife? Is it well, no? Well, what's the point of the afterlife? That's a ridiculous question. And also, I use it exactly what you say, the same logic, because I use it as an example, and I say, listen, if I gave you $1,000, just here you go, here's $1,000 check, and let you loose in a shopping mall and said, all right, you can spend that $1,000 anywhere you want. I don't care what you buy, have fun, go for it. But get this, at the end of this shopping trip, I'm going to give you $1 billion. Or let's say another example, I
Sounds
give you
good.
$1,000 and that's it. That's all you're going to get. Tell me which $1,000 you're going to value more. You're going to value the one where
Yeah.
there's no $1 billion waiting for you. So, yeah, your life does matter because it's all you have, or at least it's all you will have. Like maybe you will
Mhm.
have more, but you don't. And I've seen so many times where people will have like strained relationships with family members or, not bother reconciling some like deep personal issue. And I've heard them say out loud, it's fine because we'll be together in heaven one day and it'll be okay. It's like you don't know that. Like you don't know that at all.
Right.
You're willing to lose like deep important relationships over let's be honest, paltry issues almost every time
Mhm.
in hopes you'll be reconciled one day. And it's devastating that you see this so often. It really does make me sad. Like people say that we're angry. I was angry for a long time because I felt lied to, and manipulated. But I am just sad a lot of times too because people have this mindset and it's really poisonous.
100%. Yeah. I think I think it's really destructive. It can be I don't know. And I also feel like we don't talk about it enough, right? Like I feel like we also get this
Who's
argument
we?
from
Because I talk
yeah,
about it all the time.
yeah, maybe. Um we get this argument from Christianity that like it gives them purpose, right, in life. Um and I don't know, maybe it gives you the wrong kind of purpose, in my opinion.
Have you considered a different one?
Yeah, let's evaluate purposes.
So
Um,
I see it being destructive, and I know you'll catch me in this one politically. And
oh, for sure.
like
Yeah.
politically is where I see most of the poison and the venom come out. And I I was a conservative roughly until I don't know, like right pre-Obama, maybe definitely like by like 2011 or so, before I joined the army. Like I was definitely leaning left more. I was never really super far right. Like I remember arguing uh that people who were anti-gay marriage were very weird in college. I was like, why do you care so much about this? Like it didn't make sense to me back then. But I often wondered if I'd have stayed conservative, how long I could have done it. Um, and I think if I were conservative and like Trump happened, like I know I couldn't possibly have voted for Trump because there's no way I'm voting for someone who I just know for a fact is significantly dumber than I am. That couldn't happen. There's no chance I would do it. And I would have a hard time being conservative, or at least admitting it today, just by watching just the venom, just
Right.
the fire hose of hatred that comes from the American conservative right, and a bunch of it comes from the exact same people we grew up with. I mean, the
Oh yeah.
exact same, and it's horrifying, and religion has a strong correlation with that because I mean, like like the religion we grew up in, it's even a stretch to call it Christianity. It's not really Christianity at all. It's more like worshiping, American conservatism, capitalism, and white supremacy. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But
Yeah.
it's a strong correlation between the two, nonetheless.
Yeah. I think it's wild to me, just how radical politically, the people that we love, our family and friends, and the folks in our circle that we grew up with. Um, yeah, I'm still processing that, honestly, TJ. Like,
It's
it's
hard.
hard for me. It's hard for me to really understand. And then when I am exposed to that venom, I often just have to like leave the room because it's just difficult to deal with it.
The really difficult part is precisely what you said, that these were people we knew or know, and loved, and they were our friends, or and it's like, man, were they always like this? And I just didn't see it? Or did this metastasize over the years? And I guess it's a little bit of both, just like with
Yeah,
everything. But
probably.
that's the part that's the hardest for me because these people weren't born this way. They weren't born fascists. They were molded into this by. So I started doing this series on TikTok, going over some of our history textbooks from the high school we went to.
I think I saw one or two, like some of the Abeka, like eighth
Yes,
grade history or whatever it
yes,
was. Yeah.
and
Okay.
I there's like 30 videos I want to do on this. I've only done like four because they
Yeah.
take so much out of me. Like I remember like trying to do one and I just couldn't do it. It hurt so much reading this stuff and
I saw your
knowing.
one on Robert E. Lee,
I've done
and
several on Lee, yeah.
yeah, okay. That was incredible work. It's wild, like just what I don't what to say about it. What was done to try to make it come across in the way they wanted it to come across, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to continue the one about Civil War generals because there's
Yeah.
two sections in there. They talk about Union general. Well, actually, they only talk about Grant basically for the Union. I think they only mention him. And then for the Southern generals, they talk about Lee and Stonewall Jackson. And for
Okay.
Grant, it says, Grant went to West Point. He fought in the Mexican American War. He got out of the army and started like working for his dad at some store or whatever. He came back. He reenlisted to help, fight in the Civil War after that, and that was pretty much, Grant's profile. Then it goes to Lee, and it's like Lee
Right.
was an upstanding man of God. Like
Oh my
Robert
God.
E. Lee was. They do the bullshit talking about how he freed his slaves. I don't know if you saw that part of the video where they mentioned that he freed his slaves, but they don't mention that he was forced to free his slaves by a
Right.
Virginia court during this. A Confederate state judge like forced him to obey with an order to free his. It was wild. That's how much he liked slavery. Then it talks about Stonewall Jackson, and it said Stonewall Jackson was also a great man of God. He had a Sunday school class that his slaves would attend, and it just goes on and on about how great of Christians Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson were. Doesn't say shit about the Northern generals being great Christians, which wouldn't matter except that this was a Christian curriculum, so it's making you feel sympathetic to the people in the South, and they walk this fine line of, well, slavery was bad, of course, because that was Democrats, but the Confederacy was good. I know they were Democrats too, but still, the Confederacy was good. Like that's what it and there was another one. We're talking about Martin Luther King. I didn't do that video yet,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it mentions how Martin Luther King was unfortunately associated with a lot of radicals, a lot of radical liberals or whatever. And there was a line in the book that said, and King was assassinated, in 1968. And it said that what do they phrase it? That the civil unrest that he helped cause led to his death. I was like, what the? I just like
Oh my
it's just
God.
like wild stuff, man. Absolutely wild.
Uh, yeah.
Do you remember noticing any of that while you were in school? Because I did. I remember looking at a lot. It's like, man, that looks weird. I didn't, but
I don't know if I wasn't thinking critically. My at that time, actually, I was homeschooled. Like, so that was like eighth grade, I think
oh, that's
is
true. Yeah,
that
that's true.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and we had a weird curriculum. It was called Sunlight, and it was like um, it was basically a literature-based curriculum. So instead of like a textbook that you would read, we would read books about the characters in the textbook, like
It was like a
novels essentially.
classical training thing.
That was my brother did that more.
Hmm.
This wasn't really that, but it was a literature-based thing. In some ways, it was good in that like it got me reading a lot, which was beneficial later in my life. Um, but yeah, so I never had the Abeka books, except whatever we did at
I would say,
Maranatha.
what'd you have in high school then? Because
Well, yeah, our Maranatha stuff. But before, like my freshman year in high school, I guess I was still homeschooled.
mhm.
I don't remember, honestly. I think I was
Not
still
really.
reading literature.
It's like-
Yeah.
I probably would have really liked the literature based degree because I did love literature. I did love that. It was one of the few things I really enjoyed in school. I still do. It's funny. I love literature, and I read a ton in high school, college, and grad school, and everything. I never read anymore. I don't. I can't. The like in the last 5 years, I may have read two books. Like I don't plan on reading anymore. It's just like I just like it's just there's a lot of great ways to learn, and like you ask me to read a 500-page book, fuck you. I'm not gonna do it. Like it's not gonna
TJ,
happen. I'm sorry.
I'm pretty impatient with books as well.
Yeah,
They're often I feel like so much filler, like get to the point. Like
that's what I feel too.
I want to get, especially nonfiction. I mean, yeah, like you can watch 3 or 4 TikTok videos or YouTube and get basically everything you need from a whole book, right?
I've been saying this for like
Yeah.
15 years now, and you know what? I've mentioned this plenty of times, so people they'll be familiar with this. But when I was a kid, I started noticing that people would use uh, how many books they've read as like a metric of
Right.
how smart they were. They would
Listen,
do it.
yeah, I see this in my own history and in my own life. I read so many books. Oh my God. And am I better off for it? Maybe, but it was a lot of work. And I think I could have just watched a few YouTube videos, right? Or had a couple conversations with people who knew more than I did.
Or here's the thing: it's like people would say like, "Oh, I read 40 books this year," and everything. I was like, "Okay, but how do I know those books weren't garbage? Like, how do I
Yeah.
know those books were good at all?" And so, but if I told them I watched, 30 documentaries, well, that's not the same. Well, yeah, you don't know. Those they could have been like excellent quality documentaries, and you could have read 40 comic books for all I know. I don't care. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make you any better than anybody.
Yeah.
And so it is like a true thing because like reading a lot when we were young definitely helped us because I know it has helped me. Like I
Mhm.
just in like I like making literary references, or it helps me communicate, all the stuff. But I don't feel the need to do it that much anymore. It's like I've reached critical mass on my reading, and like get to the point. Like let's get to the point. We can find out more, and that's something that what's funny about that is how do I put this? Like our community grew up in was really deep into like reading and everything, but they're also
Mhm.
staunchly anti-intellectual. It's a
So
weird
wild,
tightrope
right?
they walk there. I don't know how they do that.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me, I run into this sort of stalemate with these discussions a lot, like with my family, especially. But um, I might have an argument against whatever their point of view is, but then have I read the books on it, right? And that is a never-ending list
I
of
hate
books,
that. I hate
right?
it so much.
Or have I? It's even things like I don't know, Joe Rogan podcast. But have you listened to the last 5 years of Joe Rogan podcast? No.
Wow,
Um,
really? That's that's
like
the best stuff.
if you don't have the same history and the same have have walked through the same path, then you can't argue with them on this particular topic. Like I run into that stalemate. Instead of like, let's talk about the
Yeah.
ideas, it's well, you obviously just haven't read this book yet.
This
And
happened. You're
yeah,
right. This happened a lot when I would talk about so the same questions that people have about God and morality and everything.
right.
And one of the questions that bugs me and everyone that is a practicing Christian is the brutal destruction and brutality and just malevolent nature of God in the Old Testament, specifically when it comes to like war and destruction, and telling them
Hmm.
go into this city, kill the soldiers, kill all the
Kill,
women, kill
right.
the children, kill the fucking animals. Like it's like what? And it is just really
Yeah,
it's
take
in
the women as your new
take
wives.
the
Yeah,
women, yeah.
right.
And specifically, this is in the book of Numbers, I believe, and it tells
Hmm.
Moses tells the soldiers to go in, kill everyone except for the virgins who you can take for yourselves. A
Yeah,
third of the virgins are to be given to the Levites, like the priests or whatever, but the other two-thirds take for yourselves. That's a
sounds
great one.
fair. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because it's like, okay, what's going on here? And then of course the gymnastics starts. Oh well, they're there to raise them. To come on, like get the fuck out of here. You know what's happening here. Like yeah, and trying to slavery is another one too.
Mm.
Uh, so when Trevor and I were in school, they did bring up biblical slavery, but I'm sure they said the same thing. Everyone's like, it's not actually slavery. This is indentured servitude, what's the word?
Yeah.
Voluntary indentured servitude, where you would serve someone, like you owed them money, so you would work for someone for 7 years, and then you would be set free. Which brings about its own questions because, like, okay, everyone who owes a debt owes 7 years. All debts are not equal. Why is it always 7 years of work? That's weird. But what they didn't tell us, well, I had to find this out myself later on, was that only applied to
To
fellow
Jews.
Hebrew
Mhm.
males. Yep,
Right.
that's it.
Yeah, right.
And Hebrew females you could own forever.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that.
yes,
Okay. I
Hebrew
did know
females.
if you a slave from like another someone that you
Yes.
conquered, you could own forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Foreigners you could own forever, and
Yeah.
Hebrew females you could own forever. Hebrew males you could only own for 7 years. You let them go unless, and there was a loophole in this one too,
Mm.
that if you marry, like if your Hebrew slave marries another slave you have, you still have to set the man free, but he can decide, okay, well, I don't want to leave my family and any kids he has here who are still slaves. In that case, you put an earring in his ear and now you own him forever too. So there's a
Oh,
way to, yeah. And so I would talk about this and I was like, okay, the Old Testament clearly condones slavery. It says you may take slaves, you may own them as property. These are not people that are like getting paid. They can't leave when they want. And people would like just do their best to try to defend this. And so many times I would get comments from people saying, well, have you read this book? Well, what this like?
oh,
Go
yeah.
listen to this guy. No,
Yeah.
you tell me the best argument. Like, don't tell me to read 400 pages. It's like if this is a 1 or 2 line answer here that explains why this is wrong. I don't need to read, a bibliography to explain, God's word. And that is really frustrating.
Yeah, I keep running into this over and over and over again. And
It's
it's hard to
cowardly.
get anywhere. Yeah, it's hard to get anywhere with people and that.
I don't know. I don't know. The it's it's just it's just so hard, man. Like it's just so I don't know, like anyone who's been through it, I can understand. But um, so you said you're an agnostic atheist, right?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
word I use. Yeah.
yeah, same,
Probably
same.
best describes me that way.
Yeah. For people wondering why we say agnostic and atheist, in case you're wondering. So people seem to have this conception. I get why, because that's how it's used in popular culture, is that
Hmm.
an agnostic is someone who doesn't know if God exists or not. They're, 50-50, one or the other. And an atheist is someone who says, I know, like
Yeah,
the
that's
ground I'm
why I use
standing
that
on.
phrase. Yeah,
Yeah, that
exactly.
God doesn't exist.
I don't want to pretend that I have all this, that I'm a fundamentalist about it, right?
Yeah.
That I
Yeah.
have secret knowledge about
Right.
that God doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't.
Exactly. Yeah. And that person doesn't exist. There's no one anywhere who can definitely say, I know for a fact, God, because you're a human being, you couldn't possibly know that. So
Mhm.
we use the phrase agnostic atheist because we're saying we don't know if God exists, but we also don't believe that one exists. And so, like, that's just, it's pretty simple. But have you
Yeah.
told, I assume you told everybody, you're saying it publicly now. So I assume everybody knows this in your family, or everyone who's asked. How did that go?
Oh, yeah, I don't. I think at this point, actually, I didn't like sit everybody down, and I wasn't like, listen,
Mhm.
guys, I'm a agnostic atheist. Deal with it. It's just I've been just more and more vocal about where I'm at with things and sort of on
No
social
one's asked you
media,
though.
yeah,
No one's
on
asked you.
Thanksgiving. Yeah, like it came up like, my brother argued with me a couple times about it back some years ago, but um no, really no one's asking me about it anymore, honestly. Um,
Mhm.
they just assume that I have fallen off the deep end, that there's no reason to have that conversation anymore, I think. I think that's where a lot of folks are at. I mean,
Yeah.
not my little brother. He'll be here
I was gonna say,
tomorrow
I assume
and
that was say, yeah, I assume it was your older brother
yeah,
you're talking about. I didn't ask, but I assume that's
yeah,
what it
yeah.
was. Yeah.
Tyler is we're on the same page on pretty much everything in life. He's
Mhm.
incredible. And I mean, Sage is an incredible brother to have. I absolutely love sitting down and having conversations with him. We're about to here in a couple days for Christmas. I just feel like I'm banging my head against the wall often when we talk. And
So Sage, every once in a while, he'll send me messages and stuff on the stuff
yeah,
I post and everything. And he's great. Like I love talking to Sage. I've never had a bad interaction with Sage whatsoever. So I have no beef with him at all. Also, say years and years ago, I don't even remember what year, this must have been 8 years ago minimum,
okay,
maybe 10. But I was in Missouri and I went to visit you and Sage at
I
Sage's
remember.
place.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
Sage's house. Was it
Mhm.
Thanksgiving
It was
maybe
Thanksgiving. It
or
was
yeah,
Thanksgiving.
yeah.
And Sage was gonna he had baked a turkey and he was frying one too. There was a lot of people, folks. There's a
He's
lot
big
of
into
people.
frying those
Yes.
turkeys. Yeah.
So you and him were outside frying this turkey, and it was freezing. And we were like standing under this awning trying to fry this turkey, and like you were around and everything. But that was the first time I ever had a fried turkey before. And it was delicious.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe because turkey is not a great like centerpiece bird. It's not. It's
Sure.
dry. You need to like drown it in gravy to make it palatable. But folks, if you haven't tried a fried turkey, like it's just like it's crispy on the outside and the juiciest meat you've ever had. It's just a taste explosion of flavor in your mouth. And ever since that day, Thanksgiving, Christmas, folks, I got this. I got
You're frying
this.
turkeys?
I fried turkeys
That's what oh my gosh.
ever since
That's
that
great.
day. Ever since that day, like it has changed my life, man. I was like, I
Sage would
don't
love to hear that.
if
This is
yeah, I swear I
incredible.
haven't told him that because that was a life changing moment for me when when he showed me how to fry a turkey. And so yeah, whenever it's Thanksgiving or Christmas, like I if I'm hosting, obviously, but even if I'm visiting someone like family, like, hey, listen, let me do this. All right, I know what I'm doing here. Like, don't spend 8 hours baking this thing. No one's gonna like it anyway. I'm gonna fry this in 45 minutes. It's gonna be fantastic. But yeah, tell
Yeah,
Sage I said hello. I like to have him on too
sure.
to talk about this kind of stuff
That'd be
because
cool. Yeah,
he's really smart and pleasant to talk to and very reasonable. And he Sage is not like the people we've been talking about lately. Like as far as
absolutely not.
the
Yeah.
religious
He's incredibly well articulated too, which is a breath of fresh air, especially, for someone that
you
as conservative.
elitist, Trevor. You elitist. How dare you look down your nose on these salt of the earth
Uh,
individuals?
I yeah, I didn't mean that. Now
Yeah,
that
you
I'm
did. It's
thinking
fine.
back
No,
on it
it's
like
fine.
that. But no, but he is like he's a great conversationalist. So yeah, it's
it's
cool.
but I mean it goes back to what we were saying about the anti-intellectualism thing, is that
All right.
there's just they it is a real thing that conservatives in general, but religious conservatives especially, how they'll get upset because people on the I don't know, not even the left, but just like the middle, like look down on them and like insult their intelligence. Like, bro, it's hard not to. I mean, how can we not? Like your knowledge of you have like a hilariously uh insufficient grasp of science, literature, history, politics, philosophy. It's like talking to a 7-year old. Like what do you expect us to do? And what do you want? Like what do you want if you're gonna just gonna cast aspersions on anyone who like does any type of work into studying this stuff? It's like, okay, well, like you said, like what's the point? Like why even bother having these conversations? They're just gonna circle around like that.
Yeah, it's hard. I don't know. I I get tired of reading in this world, right? Like they want me to read books that I read 20 years ago, to have these conversations about topics I cared about 20 years ago. Um, and it's hard to stay up on all that, and I have no desire to do it, right? I much prefer reading books, on politics and economics and yeah, or engineering.
Batman, like
So
literally anything,
yeah, literally
okay,
anything
anything.
else.
Have you ever
Oh my
read The
God.
Case for Christ?
Oh my God. Yeah, I know I did. I way back in like high school, I think
Yeah,
I did. Yeah.
yeah. What did you
It
think?
well, I think I liked it in high
Oh,
school.
that surprises me.
Um, yeah, but oh man, I saw it at a bookstore maybe a decade ago and was like flipping through it and was kind of shocked at just how
Eh,
bad it was. Yeah.
kindergarten,
Yeah.
kindergarten shit, man. Now, I didn't read it until college, so I was a little bit older than you
Okay.
when I read it. I was probably like a junior in college, and it was probably a sock because I wasn't like not a Christian yet, but apparently I was heading there if I just picked up The Case for Christ. And people recommend this book all the time.
I
Not
know.
so much anymore, but it's an
It
old
was
book,
like a bestseller. Yeah.
Oh my God. So the people who aren't familiar with this is a book by a guy named Lee Strobel,
That's
who
right.
claims to have been an atheist, which I got to tell you, I
He was
don't
like a
buy.
lawyer or something. He
He
took like
was
a
a
lawyer's
news reporter. He
approach.
was a
Yeah.
reporter
Or
for
okay.
a
Yeah.
newspaper in Chicago. And he said that he was like a devout atheist. It's always a giveaway when people say devout atheist. Like, okay. So he said that he went to like all these scholars and he went there to try to disprove that, Jesus was the son of God. And the questions that he asked, I found insulting. It's like, oh, so you're saying there was an empty tomb? How did that happen? I was like, okay, hold on. That's not a critical question right there. Like at all. Like there's no proof. It's just it was insulting. I couldn't believe that people that I respected were saying this was a good book. It's like, no, this is a puff piece, and anybody that's reading it objectively can know better. And a lot of the literature is that way. It's just, it's just dick slurping the entire time, like whatever your philosophy is. And it's like, how are you not insulted by this? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what else to add there, but yeah, like I said, I have little patience for that kind of literature anymore, and
Mm-hmm.
it just, yeah, I don't know.
So now that you've been through that journey, what do you say now to so like I was really actually very happy when you mentioned the fact that me talking about my journey was helpful on yours.
Hmm.
Uh that's one of the primary reasons I did it because when I lost my faith, it was one of the worst it was the worst period of my life. It was horrible. And this is what a lot of liberals like or lefties don't get who didn't grow up fundamentalist religious. They think that everyone's in on the bit, they're all doing it for show. They just want power. These like music God. No,
Now
like
we were true
we were
believers.
true
Yeah,
believers. Yeah. And a
right,
lot of these other
exactly.
people are too. Like God's existence wasn't a thought experiment for me. Like this was a metaphysical certitude. Like God was just as real as the ground I was standing on. And
Hmm.
losing that was felt like losing a limb. I mean, it was horrible. And you lost a friend, you lost your creator, you lost your purpose in life. I lost a girl that I was dating who was a Christian and who couldn't be with. So it was like it was I was so and I couldn't tell anybody like because I was afraid. Not I was never afraid that my folks would like disown me. I was never afraid of
Yeah,
that. Although a lot of people do experience that. I just didn't want my parents worried that I was going to burn in hell forever. I didn't want them to have to go through that. So when I eventually did come out like 11 years later or something, I would get lots of messages from people saying that, hey, a lot of stuff you're saying makes a lot of sense. And I just want to let you know that, it's kind of helped me guide me on my path. And I get some messages, man, from people who were like, man, like listening to you has like changed my view on this a lot. And I can't say I'm a Christian anymore, but I'm married and I have like four
oh
kids
my
and they're
God.
all Christian and I can't tell them. And it's like, man, I got no help for you there. I'm sorry, but it's bad. But uh it the anyway, the what I was gonna ask is like so you don't get into like argument stuff anymore, but like what do you do for like talking about just the human experience with people and the journey and like how to cope with it without relying, I don't want to say crutch, I don't want to be insulting, but without relying on, uh some sort of divine artificer to guide your path. Like what would you tell people? Or
Oh
what do you
man.
tell people?
Um, yeah, I guess that I'm having more and more conversations with my kids, right? Like
Yep.
that's probably the main the people in my life that I have these kind of conversations with the most at the moment. Um, Henry actually just went through an ethics course.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, one thing he and I talked about was like at the time of Jesus, right, there were these other philosophers. There was what Epicurus, there was who's the there's another guy who's like Marcus Aurelius, right? Um, and they had these ideas about the good life and eudaimonia, I think is the word that they
I,
use.
I know
Right?
that one.
Like, yeah, it's just like what's a way of living that brings you and others joy? That's kind of what it means, right? Um, and those seem to be the right kind of questions to be asking. And how what can I do? What can we do that makes our life here, our short life on this earth, that much better, both for ourselves and for others, right? So those are the kind of questions I want to be asking and the kind of ways I want to be approaching that topic. Um, I don't think we need to have a life after death, right? To to have these deeper conversations about what makes life meaningful. So I think that's kind of where I'm at with it.
I agree. I agree. And if there is one, look, you don't know anything about it. Like there's no like there's nothing. I mean, there's no need to worry about it. And it's just there's so many questions about like what life after death would be like. And I just don't worry about it, man. Like worry about what you have right now. Like that's what
Right.
really matters. And this could all listen, I don't even know if you really exist. I don't. Like and you don't know if I exist. Like I mean, like I could be a brain in a vat and so could you. This could be one thing I don't give a lot of I dismiss right out because there's no point in talking about it is like simulation theory that we're living in a simulation because
Yeah.
like
Uh,
one you can't prove it in either way. It's just God with extra steps is all it is. And two, if it's real, who cares? Like it doesn't make anything that you experience less real in your life. So just don't worry about it. Just do the best you can to make life as pleasant and as comfortable and as full of joy to everyone that you possibly can, because in a very short period of time, we're all going to be dead. So,
yeah.
enjoy it while you have right now. That's really the best way to look at it. And which is why, like, when people just dismiss the suffering and the hardship that human beings go through, I can't understand it. I even as a Christian, I couldn't understand the callousness of a lot of our people of our
Yeah.
faith. That was just
Um,
go ahead.
I don't want to like bring up a whole other topic, but seeing thousands of people die in Gaza right now,
Yeah.
and then seeing, our families essentially cheering that on, at least people in my
Well,
family are. Um, and it's wild. Even as a Christian, how can you like, even if you're pro-Israel, but then just, oh, I don't know.
it's
Maybe we
it's
shouldn't get
dark.
into it, but like
No, no,
it
feel
is
free.
incredibly
It's dark.
dark.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's one of the most cancerous elements of the American evangelical movement, which the power of that movement has driven a lot of the
Right.
pro-Zionist cause over the last few decades,
I know. Yeah.
and it's starting to crack now because people see more and more of the atrocities that take place every day there. But a lot of it comes down, why a lot of this is about what this is about. It's the eschatology that, hey, this is how we trigger, the end of the world, and which they all yearn for, which is also really dark, but that's what drives a lot of it.
Yeah, even if it's going to bring the end of the world, to then look back and think that it's good that Israel is killing all these innocent people in Gaza. Yeah,
It's
struggle.
horrifying, man.
It's
It's
horrifying.
horrifying. I don't know how
Yeah.
they sleep at night. I really don't. Like I really don't. It's awful. But yeah, I didn't want to end on a bad note like that. But no, it's true. Because that honestly, you actually like picked up what I was saying that without saying it when I was talking about,
Mm.
looking on just callously at death and destruction. That's exactly what I was thinking about. It dovetailed right into what we were saying. But I kept you a little over an hour. I'm sorry.
It's all
But I
right. This was a lot of
appreciate
fun. This
I
was super
really
great.
appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. I I want to do a lot of these. I do mostly political stuff,
Hmm.
as you know, but I do want to talk a lot more to more people who went through the same experience that I did, because our perspective is so unique, and I love seeing the paths everyone went down. So far, yours is like, well, at least where you ended up is like exactly where I ended up, and that's rare. Usually, it's like some sort of spiritualism, but I guess like ours is too. Like you could say, what is it? Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Like reading that is a form of spiritualism. It's not necessarily worshiping a triune God who spoke reality into existence, but spiritualism nonetheless. But yeah, that was good to see.
It feels kind of like a spiritualism to me. Like being meditative
Yeah,
and thinking about why things matter in your life, and what your purpose in life is. Definitely feels like a spiritual journey.
it is. It
I
is.
don't know why we need God for a
Yeah,
spiritual
no,
journey.
we can. We're
Yeah,
more than capable of doing it ourselves, and
we are gods,
we
TJ.
are exactly.
That's
Yeah,
right.
come at me, Yahweh. All right. Thanks so much, Trevor. I appreciate it. If you'd like to do this again sometime, please let me know. I would love to. I haven't talked to Matt in like 15
I
years. So
I was just thinking about Matt. I was curious, like if you had him on, that would be an incredible
I
conversation.
haven't talked to Matt in a very like before he like I remember meeting with him and his wife maybe 12 years ago, maybe. I forget, the years just
I
run
know.
together now. And that was the last time I saw him. And I haven't talked to him online, I don't think, since then. But maybe like a happy birthday here or there. But um Tara
Yeah,
died. I don't know if you heard that.
I did. Yeah, I
I
did hear
didn't
that.
go to Missouri. I was trying to like Lisa and Joe and Noah met up there,
Hmm.
and I tried to get down there, but I couldn't. And I talked to them online when that happened and everything, and I was like, man, it's like that's probably the last chance I'd ever get to like see those three together at the same time, or unless
Yeah,
something equally bad happens and we all happen to end up there, or something. So you never know. But yeah, I should look up Matt and see what he's up to.
yeah, I'd be curious.
All
But
right.
all right, TJ, thanks for making this happen. I really
I appreciate it, man.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on. I love you.
All right, love you too. Yeah,
Bye.
talk to you later. See ya.